Step back for a moment and picture yourself walking into a 1970s classroom. Chairs scrape across polished wooden floors, their legs echoing in a rhythm every child once recognized. A faint tap-tap of chalk meets the board, drifting through the room like a steady metronome. There's a brisk draft creeping in from the old sash windows, carrying the unmistakable scent of exercise books and freshly sharpened pencils. And before you've even taken your seat, one truth becomes clear. Some of the rules we followed without question back then would feel completely unreal today. From the precise way we raised our hands, to the strict seating plans that never changed, to uniform expectations followed down to the tiniest detail. These routines shaped our school days in ways modern pupils would barely believe. Yet for many of us, the memories still sit vividly in the mind. If you were there, you know exactly what I mean. To understand why those classroom rules felt so normal in the 1970s, you have to step into the wider world Britain was shaped by. The country was still carrying the echoes of post-war values communities' prized order, respect, and a sense of pulling together. Homes, workplaces, and neighborhoods all followed clear expectations, and schools naturally reflected that same mindset. Everything felt a little more formal, a little more structured, as though every part of the day had its own quiet purpose. Handwriting wasn't just handwriting, it was a reflection of care and discipline. Conduct wasn't simply encouraged, it was assumed. Morning assemblies set the tone with calm routine, followed by classroom greetings that reminded everyone they were part of something bigger than themselves. Even silent reading time had its own atmosphere of children turning pages in perfect hush, as though the room itself held its breath. Compared to today's flexible digital learning spaces, classrooms of the era were small worlds with their own strict codes. Every child knew where to sit, how to behave, and when to speak. And while it may seem rigid now, that rhythm shaped the flow of school life in ways that still linger in our memories. Looking back now, some of the rules we grew up with almost feel like scenes from another world. Take the silence during lessons, for example. It wasn't just encouraged, it was the unspoken rule that shaped the entire room. You could hear the soft tick of the wall clock, the scratch of pencils on paper, and the occasional tap of chalk at the board. Even a quiet whisper carried far enough to earn a sharp look, so most children simply learned to sit still, their thoughts doing all the talking. Then there was the pursuit of copybook perfection. A single smudge meant rewriting an entire line, sometimes the whole page. You remember the careful way we held our pens, the slow strokes to keep each letter neat, and the mild panic when a sleeve brushed across wet ink. It taught patience, though it didn't always feel like it at the time. One of the most astonishing rules, when viewed from today, was the stand-up etiquette. The moment an adult entered the room, every child rose automatically, no hesitation, no murmurs, just the unified shuffle of chairs and the thud of dozens of feet finding the floor. It was pure reflex. Uniform expectations were equally precise. Shoes polished, hair tidy, colors exact. Even the coldest winter mornings didn't soften the standards. And of course, desks stood in perfect rows, not a centimeter out of place. The layout alone told you what kind of day you were meant to have. Most people completely forget this one until you remind them. The echo of footsteps in the corridor signaled a change of mood long before anyone opened the door. And that quiet shift says so much about how differently classrooms once worked. What's striking when you look back is just how many rules we followed automatically without ever thinking to question them. Handwriting style alone had an entire rulebook attached. There were approved loops, gentle curls, and letter shapes that had to look identical from one page to the next. You could spot a classmate's handwriting instantly, yet everyone still aimed for the same neat script, as though the exercise books demanded it. Queuing protocols were just as precise. Whether you were lining up to enter the classroom or heading to lunch, you stood in a perfectly straight line, eyes forward, no shuffling, no talking. It's funny now, remembering how natural it felt to slip into formation the moment a teacher appeared at the doorway. Mornings had their own ritual. You'd walk in, greet the teacher, sit down, place your hands on the desk, and wait in silence for the day to begin. That quiet pause created an atmosphere you can still feel if you close your eyes, a mix of calm nerves and the faint smell of new worksheets. Then there were the coveted class monitor duties, cleaning chalk from erasers, collecting books, opening windows on stuffy afternoons. Being chosen felt like a tiny promotion, a moment of pride you carried for the rest of the week. And who could forget reading aloud? The teacher would move steadily row by row, and as your turn crept closer, your heart thudded louder than any classroom clock. You practiced sentences in your head, hoping you wouldn't stumble. Today's classrooms would never operate this way, yet these routines, strict as they were, brought a strange comfort. They gave each day a predictable rhythm, a sense of order we only appreciate now, looking back across the years. Looking back with adult eyes, it becomes clearer that those old rules, strict as they sometimes felt, were quietly teaching us far more than we realized. At the time, we simply followed the routines because everyone did. But underneath the daily patterns lived lessons in resilience, patience, focus, and respect. They shaped the way we approached challenges long before we had words for it. Those small rituals created a sense of stability. The silence before lessons, the steady rhythm of handwriting practice. The calm order of cueing all of it made the classroom feel like a place where you belonged, even on the days you felt unsure. We didn't always understand the rules back then, but looking back, many of us realized they quietly built our character. There were the nerves before a spelling test, the tiny spark of pride when the teacher praised your work, the thrill of being chosen as monitor for the week. These moments stitched themselves into our memories, teaching us the value of trying, of helping, of taking responsibility. Today, those lessons show up in unexpected ways in how we treat others, how we stay steady under pressure, and how we still appreciate the simple order of everyday life. When you step into a modern classroom, the contrast to the 1970s is almost instant. Today's lessons unfold with digital screens, flexible seating, and a level of ease in communication that would have felt astonishing back then. Pupils move around more freely, collaborate in groups, and access online resources with a tap. The atmosphere is brighter, more relaxed, and shaped by a very different understanding of how children learn. And yet, something about the simplicity of those old rules still pulls us back. The quiet routines, the predictable structure, the feeling that every day followed a familiar rhythm, it all left a mark. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was our childhood, and it shaped the generation we became. As we leave that old classroom behind, a few familiar details linger in the mind. The smell of new exercise books, the warm hum of radiators on cold winter mornings, and the slow, steady tick of the classroom clock marking time in a way nothing digital ever could. These memories stay with us because they were the backdrop to our childhood, shaped by rules we barely questioned. Now, it's your turn to share. Tell us what rule from your school days would shock today's pupils the most. Wait, if you grew up in Old Britain, you'll want to see what I couldn't include in this video. I've posted the deeper story and extra memories on WhatsApp channel. The link is in the description. Join us there. For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.